Good morning, everybody. I think today is finally the day that I get to try to restart this Allis Chalmers B after all the problems I've had with it. It continues to fight me. Every little thing I do turns out to be a challenge. All right, here's my replacement FMJ Magneto. Before I take this apart and check out the coil and the points and all that, let's see if this thing has any spark. You see that? I saw a super weak spark there. All right, so that's good enough for me. I'm gonna go ahead and rebuild this. I'm gonna take the guts from the old Magneto, put it into this housing, and fingers crossed, we'll have a running tractor again. So the good news is this mag looks complete to me. Of course, the housing is good. That's why I bought it. It's got that old coil in there. It's got that sort of tar coating on it like my other one had. Even the felt is present on this. We got the gear. That's the old Fairbanks Morse condenser. Well, I had the thing all back together and what I thought was done and ready to go. I have discovered that unfortunately, either the shaft is a little bit bent or the bearings are bad in here because it's starting to bind up and it's not wanting to spin freely. So unfortunately, I don't have a press because you kind of need a press to get the shaft out. And otherwise I could put this shaft in this housing. So I think I'm on plan E now or something like that. We're going back to this housing. I JB welded it. Obviously this repair is just temporary, but I want to see if I can get this back on the tractor and cinch down. Hopefully it'll stay intact. So anyway, JB weld here, that's really not my style. I tend to go with the correct and permanent fixes when I do things, but I want to get this thing running. So I'm going to put everything back in this housing. We're going to go with this one. In the meantime, I'm going to have to get this shaft pressed out and probably get some parts for this. Even if I use this shaft, I still might need new bearings for this. So this continues to be a longer term problem for me, but we're going to go with the quick fix. Fingers crossed it'll work for a while, and then I won't be in such a hurry and I'll be able to get this thing done right. All right, it's on the tractor. I've got it set in the proper orientation with the drive gear, so everything should be in time. I'm gonna cinch down the top nut and then carefully cinch down the bottom. Cinch this one down good. And just snug the bottom one up. I do have a spacer in there. My spacer is just a nut that I sort of turned into a horseshoe shape and fit over that bolt. And then I also put a thin washer in there to make the perfect width. Since those old spark plug wires were corroded, I just didn't want to deal with them, so I got new copper core wires versus carbon core. And I got them cut to length. All right, so we got 1, 2, 4, 3, because I had it set on number 1 to align the drive gear. I know that the next plug to fire should be number 2. So I'm going to hook up the inline tester, give it a crank, And hopefully it makes a spark. Oh, good. Nice and bright too. So we'll call it a day. We'll let that dry overnight. I still need to get the carburetor back on because I ordered a gasket kit for it. So that will help. I also cleaned everything thoroughly again. So if you remember, it did run on the carburetor before, but it was intermittently, sort of surging, and the idle circuit wouldn't take an adjustment. So I focused on the idle passageways again, made sure they're 100% clear. And with any luck, we will have a running tractor, perhaps tomorrow. All right, welcome to the next day. I think that looks all right. I also got a new valve cover gasket, got that installed. And just got the carburetor back on and hooked up and ready to go. So first, I guess I'll turn on the fuel and see if we have any leaks. I did put a new float in there since the other one was corroded a little bit. I'll also get this kill wire reinstalled. All right, the fuel has been on for a few minutes and we've got no leaking. So I'm just gonna do a fuel check here. Crack the drain on the bowl and make sure we've got fuel coming out. Yes, good. So after 2 weeks or more, I think I'm finally ready to try to start this again. All systems are go, so we'll open the shop doors, get it pushed outside, and give it a try. All right, good news. It runs and it runs well. So the carburetor issue is resolved. The Magneto issue is temporarily resolved. Drove it maybe, 40 feet and came back. The transmission sounds a little whiny to me. So I'm gonna check the oil and we'll see how that looks. Go from there. Well, I'm almost sorry. I looked at the final drive oil. That's some pretty nasty looking stuff. The good news is it has oil. The bad news is that it's very old and I'll have to change it. The transmission was about a quart low, so we'll see if that makes any difference to that whining sound I'm hearing. So let's do a warm start on it and see if that changes anything. Regardless, I know it's safe enough to take it for its first real drive. All right, I'm gonna make a list of things I still want to investigate and or fix or change on this old girl in no particular order. Because this tractor starts so easily now, I'm not gonna put a battery in it at all. I'm just gonna leave the Magneto ignition alone just like it is. The starter, I'm probably gonna leave the starter on the tractor, you know, if nothing else, just to plug that hole where it is. But I do want to investigate the starter slant compression issues that we had in one of the earlier videos, just to satisfy my own curiosity about that. But regardless, we don't care too much about the starter because we don't need it. Of course, we have to reinstall the hood, have to change the final drive oil, might even change the engine oil and the transmission oil also. And of course, the big thing that I'm curious about is the sickle bar mower. I'd like to get that operational because that's one of the main reasons I bought the whole tractor, is for the sickle bar. I know I need a belt for the back and I don't know what size. And then of course, when we get the sickle bar operational, I have to test it out. I need to rebuild that new FMJ housing that I got. And of course the PTO, that sort of goes hand in hand with the sickle bar mower operation, but that's definitely on the list as well. And probably a couple other things that I'm forgetting. So I'll do one more warm start on this, and for the first time, I will be able to actually drive this back into my shop. issues with the Magneto. That spacer seems to be doing the job, and there's no oil leaks from it. So I think that was a good temporary resolution to the problem. New spark plug wires, new spark plugs, new valve cover gasket. Got that carburetor taken off and cleaned again, put a new float in it this time with new gaskets. And now the tractor's running right, so that's gotta be what did it. I've got no fuel leaks and the float is working. I've also got no coolant leaks, which is nice. And that's as hot as the engine got today with that short run, about 140-ish, maybe 50. It's nice to finally make some progress with this old girl. It has just put up a fight every step of the way. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll hope to see you on part 7.